Let's get started now. I allowed an extra minute for those that needed a little bit more time to log in. My name is Paul Giannett, and I am going to be introducing the new Hobo MX20L water level loggers to you today. I want to thank you for joining me. Oops, I went a little too fast on that. Just a little bit of logistics. The webinar is scheduled to run for about 30 minutes, and then I'll stay on after that to answer any additional questions you have. If you have questions, you can enter them into the control panel. You'll see a box that looks something like this. Just type in your questions there, and they'll show up on my screen, and I'll address those at the end. The webinar is being recorded, and we'll send a link to the recording afterwards in a follow-up email. So if you need to refer to it later, you'll have that to refer to. Just as a way of a brief introduction, I'm the principal product manager here for the Hobo products. I've been with Onset for 28 years, working with the engineers to develop our line of Hobo data loggers and Hobo stations for both environmental and water applications. And I helped develop our first water level logger, which we introduced back in 2005. And so we've been selling water level loggers for 20 years now. So we've expanded the line. We've had a lot of experience with them. I live and work here on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where water is very much part of our lives. It's important to our economy and recreation. So I'm all about protecting our valuable water resources. So Onset was founded back in 1981. We are the manufacturer of the Hobo data loggers, and we are also on Cape Cod. A little bit of news. Some of you may be aware of this already, but we are now part of Lightcore Environmental. We joined up with them last year, and I'm very excited to be connected with a great environmental company like Lightcore. Lightcore, if you're not familiar with them, is the global leader in greenhouse gas measurement technology. And they really are very scientifically based. I've seen them at a lot of the conferences we've been to over the years, and I always admired their people and their work. So very excited to be joined up with them. I do have a little bit of kind of a commercial announcement of sorts. We are doing a event in next month in Tucson, Arizona. Now this is a little bit more targeted to our terrestrial environmental applications. This is called Lightcore Connect, and it's dealing with climate change mitigation, soil health monitoring, improving crop yields, and disease research. If you're interested in finding out more about that, you can check it out at this website down below, lightcore.com/connect, and I will be there as well. And so if you come, I'd love to have the chance to meet you. Here's our agenda for today. This is all about the MX20L water level loggers. I'm going to start out with an overview, get into some of the key features and benefits, get into a few of the details that might be relevant for your applications. I'm going to give you a demonstration of sorts and talk a little bit about applications, position this within our Hobo line because we have several different choices for monitoring water level now. And then as I mentioned, I'll have time for questions afterwards. I'm going to turn off my webcam. You don't need to see me anymore. So in the way of an overview of the product, when you get the product, you'll get two things. One is the data logger, and then the other thing is the magnetic activation fob. The logger itself is a low-cost, research-grade water level logger with Bluetooth for fast and easy wireless data offload. It comes in 3 different ranges. It's rated for both freshwater and saltwater use. As I mentioned, it includes the magnetic fob, and that's used to do various functions such as waking the logger, enabling the Bluetooth communications. And we include a short quick start guide. The main user manual is online. And here's kind of the key features about the logger. And what I've done here is the features that are new for the MX20L as compared to the U20L, the Hobo U20L that we've been selling. These new features I've highlighted in red, just so you can kind of see what's different and what's the same. So the big new feature, of course, is the Bluetooth communications. We've been selling Bluetooth loggers now for several years. They all begin with MX in their model number. They have proven to be very popular and work very well for our users. So we're continuing to expand and kind of basically over time convert our line over to this MX line with the Bluetooth communications. The main advantages are the fast and reliable download in the field with a range of mobile or laptop devices. And there's no need in this case to have to remove an end cap or plug the logger into a base station because the communication's wireless Bluetooth. It does use a magnetic fob to activate the Bluetooth communications. The fob's pretty small. It comes with a lanyard, so you can wear it around your neck. You don't want it to fall into the water. Much smaller than having to take a shuttle or a laptop into the field. Accuracy is good research grade accuracy at 0.1% water level. It's got the same rugged polypropylene housing that our U20L water level loggers have had, and it's proven to be very reliable over many years. And it won't rust. So it's great for both fresh and saltwater environments. One of the things we've done is we've specified the battery life with a 5-minute logging rate, which allows it to get up to a 10-year battery life, which means you can use it for longer deployments, get more years of deployments out of it. And I'll talk a little bit more about the battery life specs with various permutations in a little bit. So we're excited about that. It's a completely self-contained water level logger, so there's no cables required. Makes it easier to deploy and hide. And the price is under $400 US. Makes it very affordable, which is especially useful for applications where you're deploying many of them, and the price can determine how many you can buy within the budget. We try to make them affordable while still providing great performance. Here's a picture of activating the logger with the magnetic fob. We've got a nice little icon on there. You just hold the magnet up against that, and that wakes it up from storage mode. And it also, actually I see there's a question just came in about this, so this is timely, is when you deploy the logger, you typically want to deploy it with the Bluetooth communications off during the deployment, and then wake it up when you pull it up out of the water. And that gives you the maximum battery life. That's how you get that 10-year battery life that I was talking about. So, but it does mean when you pull it up, you got to briefly touch the magnetic fob against that icon to wake it up, enable the Bluetooth communications. It stays awake for communicating for, I don't know, 2-3 minutes, which is plenty of time to make a connection. And once it makes a connection, then it stays awake until you stop communicating with it, and then it will eventually go back to sleep. The fob is also used for button start. If you want to configure the logger in advance and just start it when you're out in the field with the fob, you can do that. And it's also used to reset the password. Our loggers have this feature where you can give it a password so that only you can access the loggers, and this just prevents somebody else from inadvertently reconfiguring your logger in a way you don't want it to be configured. With that magnet, we do recommend that you keep that more than an inch away from the logger when you're transporting it in your backpack or however you're getting it out to the field site, just so you don't inadvertently wake it up in your backpack. Now, if it's awake for a short amount of time, that's not going to matter, but if it was to go for any extended amount of time in that awake state, because the magnet's next to the logger, that could drain your battery. So some other differences between our Hobo U20L loggers is we've given this one a lot more memory. It's got enough storage for 400,000 sets of readings versus 21.7 K of readings that were possible with the U20L. So you can either log faster or have longer deployments. Don't have to go out in the field as often to offload the data. We've also improved the temperature sensor accuracy. It's 0.2 degrees C as opposed to 0.44 degrees C. And I did notice in the questions that were sent in advance, somebody was asking if it also recorded temperature. So yes, this records both temperature and water level. It also has some new features, including this multi-rate logging, which has pause and repeat options. This allows you to do a burst of faster readings and then go to sleep for a while. And that just, so you kind of maximize your memory storage and your battery usage to just when you need it. And that's useful for cases where maybe you want to average some readings to get a little bit more precision, or you might want to average out wave activity, or you might want to get wave peaks for a short amount of time. So there's various ways you can use that feature. And as I mentioned with the battery life, there's different ways you can configure it. So if you set it up for 1 minute logging with Bluetooth always on and the LED always on, you're going to get a 3-year battery life. So that's kind of, sometimes you want the convenience of being able to offload the data without having to activate it with a magnetic fob. So, but you will get a shorter battery life in that case. If you set it up with Bluetooth always off and the LED off, then you can get a 7-year battery life with 1 minute logging. And then if you extend that logging rate to 5 minutes, that's how you get the full 10 years of battery life. It uses the same Hobo Connect software that is used with the rest of our Hobo MX loggers. You use this to configure and start the loggers, as well as for offloading the data. And you can also use it to process the data with the water level assistant. I'll show you a screenshot of that. And I'll actually show you a demo in a little bit of the whole process of configuring and offloading loggers in the field to see have a sense for that. We also have a internet-based platform, HoboLink. And as of this point, we don't actually support the uploading of data to HoboLink. We're going to add that feature probably within a couple of months. We support it for many other MX series loggers, and we're going to support this logger in that. But we've got some other changes happening with HoboLink. So we're going to follow in probably a couple months with supporting this logger for upload to HoboLink, and it will require a data plan for that. Because the features you get for the analysis and the storage capabilities you get for that for HoboLink, with HoboLink. So here's a brief look at the water level assistant. It's very similar to the barometric compensation assistant that many of you may have used with our in HoboWare Pro, with our prior U20 series loggers. So it's, you enter in a water density, reference water level and time, and then you can link in a barometric data file. For barometric pressure, and we do recommend that you have a logger deployed nearby in the air, so at least like within 10 miles is good enough. So you can actually use one barometric logger with several water level loggers deployed in the area. And that barometric pressure logger, it makes a difference with the readings. Those barometric pressure changes can make a difference of 6 inches, maybe even up to a foot in your water level readings if you don't compensate for it. So you really should compensation for barometric pressure changes. And you can use another MX20L series logger. The -04, which has the narrowest pressure range, is probably your best choice for that. You could use a MX802 logger, which has a barometric sensor built into it as well. 2001 also has a barometric sensor in it. Or you can import a CSV data file, and that's pretty easy to do as well. You just get the data in the right format and import it into the data assistant. And just a note here, you must export the data, the water level data to save it. So it creates a new exported data file that includes the water level. Other features to note, it's got the same durable ceramic pressure sensor that we've been using in our water level loggers actually for the last 20 years. So it's a very proven sensor. We haven't found a more durable and accurate sensor, so we've stuck with it. It's worked very well. Some users need a calibration certificate. We do not provide a NIST traceable calibration certificate with this logger. Typically, if you're looking for a calibration certificate, you want to use our most accurate water level loggers, which are the ones that come in the metal housing, the U20-001 loggers in either stainless or titanium housings for saltwater. So keep that in mind if you need a calibration certificate. This logger is not compatible with our MX gateway. The gateway's really more for, it's an indoor rated gateway, so not really a good match for these loggers anyways, but in case you were thinking of that or wondering about that, it is not compatible with that. So just in terms of the details, we're selling these in 3 different ranges, the 30-foot range, 100-foot range, and a 13-foot range, all at the same price. And obviously, if you get for a narrower range, you get better accuracy within that narrower range. But of course, you need to have a range that accommodates your full range of measurements and the depth that you'll be deploying the logger at. So you may need to go for one of these wider depth ranges. We include the magnetic activation fob with every logger, so you do not have to buy that separately. But if you want to have a spare, or if you need a replacement at some point, we sell those individually as well for $20. Other things you'll want to consider when you're purchasing these loggers is, as I mentioned before, you'll need one for barometric pressure in most cases. You can use the MX20L-04 for that. We also sell well caps and suspension cables, PVC protective housings. We have a carrying case, and we also sell compliance certificates, which basically say that the logger meets its specifications without getting into the details of a NIST traceable certificate. We also offer a factory battery replacement service. And I guess I should mention that the batteries in these are not user replaceable. They have to be replaced at the factory, and we have a service for that. All right, it's time for the demo. And to demonstrate this, I went to our local marina here in town, and I've attached a stilling well to the pier there in the marina. And on top of that, you can see I've installed our a well cap that we sell as an accessory on a 2-inch PVC pipe. Pretty common way of deploying these. It's a slotted PVC pipe, or no, actually, I'll take that back. This one is, I drilled holes in the bottom of the PVC pipe, and it's resting on the bottom, so it can measure all the way as the tide goes out, all the way to the bottom of the PVC pipe. Here's the loggers. I've mounted them to the mounting disc, which is used to suspend up to 2 loggers inside this stilling well. The one logger that sits down in the water is, of course, in the logger cable. This is a stainless steel, Teflon coated stainless steel cable. And then the other logger is on a short cable, so it's always above the water level, and it will record our barometric pressure. So as I said, you got to wake it up. So here I am waking it up with the magnetic fob on the dock. And so I wake them up, and now I'm going to give you a little software demo. And I got to qualify the software demo. This is in real time, and I tried to go slow so I'd have time to explain things as I go along. But to be honest, I'm going to have to talk fast to be able to keep up with it, because it goes pretty fast. And that's, you know, this is real time out at the dock. So let's see how this goes. So when I open up Hobo Connect, I can see my 2 loggers out there. I'm going to select the barometric pressure logger first. So it's connecting to that. I just tapped on that. The first thing I'm going to do is configure it. Tapping on that. And now it's bringing up the configuration screen. You'll notice that I like to attach the last 3 digits of the serial number to the name of the logger, just to make it easier to make sure I've got the right logger. So that's just a little trick I've learned. I've set it up already for a 5-minute logging rate. When I'm ready to start it, I click on Start down here at the bottom. So now it's configuring the logger, downloading that configuration. And next. Okay, that was successful. Next thing I'll do is I'll click on this in the upper left to bring it back to the main logger screen. So now I'm going to connect to the Marina logger, which is the main water level logger. And I'm going to tap on Customize Configuration and Start on this. And so it's connected again. You can see right now I've set it up. It was set up last time for a 1-minute logging rate. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change that to a 5-minute logging rate. I could have left it at the 1-minute logging rate. You can see the little scroll bar down there that I used to select the 5 minutes. So I'm there. You can see it updated my logging capacity. It will last for 4.7 years. In a second here, I'm going to, I just reduced that interval selection screen. And I just wanted to show you that I've turned off LEDs and Bluetooth always on to maximize my battery life. I just tapped on Start. And so now it's downloading that configuration and starting that logger. Logger was configured successfully. So now it's all set. We've done the configuration of the loggers, and as you can see, it goes pretty fast. And it's very convenient to do on your phone. I was using an iPhone in this case. So now I'm going to go to the next thing I want to do, which is to is to install the loggers. So here I'm installing the water level logger, which is going to be at the bottom of the stilling well. Here I'm installing the barometric pressure logger. You can see the 2 cables there if you look closely. And now you can see how that mounting disc sits at the top of the well. So my loggers are installed. The next thing I need to do is take a reference water level measurement. So in this case, I'm just using a simple tape measure to measure from the top of the well to the water surface. And I know the height of my well so that I can calculate what that starting water level is. And I make a note of the current water level in my field log, along with the time that I took that measurement. So now I've got my reference water level. I can walk away. So they're all deployed. You can see it wasn't too bad. Now it's 2 days later. You can see why I did this in advance. So now I'm waking up the loggers again, because as you may remember, I set them up to have the Bluetooth off during the deployment. So now I wake it up again. And now I'm going to show you a demonstration of offloading the data. So let's see how that goes. So the first thing I'm going to do is connect to my water level logger, click on download data, download's complete. You can see how quickly that went. Now I'm going to disconnect from that logger, connect to the other one, which is my barometric pressure logger. Then I'm going to tap on download data again. Again, it goes pretty quick. Then I've downloaded the data. Now that's going to bring me back to my main screen. I just selected data down at the bottom, and that brings up the water level file, but this has not been compensated for barometric pressure yet. So now I got to go in and do that, select salt water. I enter in my reference water level, which was 7 feet at the start of the deployment. Then I select the time that happened. So I have to scroll down to the second time in the log data points. The next thing I want to do is select my barometric pressure data file. Done. And it's now calculated the water level data. Next thing I want to do is click on this thing that looks like a graph up here to select the water level channel. So I just selected the water level channel, and now that's been added to my graph. It's pretty close in this case to the pressure, absolute pressure data. So you can see the two plots tied pretty closely together. So I did that all in the field. So I've got my data, I'm ready. Well, the next thing I want to do, or just show you, and I'm going to show you this with still shots, is exporting the data. So I'm going to export it in this case as an XLS X file. So I've just tapped on this icon up here that's a square with an arrow in it. Tapped on, and once that brings up this screen, I selected the Excel file. I export that, and I'll save it to the default location for on my iPhone for those files. If I also want to share it to another location, there's a share button that you tap as well, and then you can select any of the apps for sharing information. So in this case, I could text it, I could email it. There's other choices over here as well. You could set it up to a Google Drive and store that file away. So a lot of options to share the data. So that's the whole process. I've taken you from start to finish, deployment to processing and exporting the data. So hopefully it gives you a sense for how simple it is. Oh, and I see a question in here about calibrating the data with the barometric pressure data. By taking a reference water level reading, that basically calibrates your data. So if there's any offset in the pressure readings, that reference water level reading corrects for those offsets, and it corrects it across your data file. So those reference water level readings are important, and I do recommend taking a reference water level reading both at the beginning, like I showed you, but also at the end, just as kind of another double check. Sometimes stuff happens, and having that second reference water level reading can often help you out. So I'm looking at time. I'm going to go through this applications. Pretty much, I'm sure you all have your own applications, so I think you have a good idea of what you're planning to do. So I'm going to go through this pretty quick in the spirit of time. You can see many different ways that water level data is used. Probably no surprise there. Here's just an example of a stream monitoring application, probably one of the most common ways that our water level loggers are used. So here's a staff gauge, and this is the backside of that staff gauge. And you can see they have a 1.5-inch PVC well with the water level logger is installed. And of course, there's a barometric pressure logger on a tree next to the stream. So you want to have that data as well. Here's the environmental consulting company doing all sorts of different applications in 30 different locations. The price point makes that affordable. And in this case, they want to get many years they have to monitor for several years, so the battery life is important. Major municipality in Oregon doing a restoration project. Here's another example, a mitigation management company. Again, doing required mitigation monitoring after a project. So I want to touch on this real quickly. It is, sorry if I just noticed I went over the time. Sorry for those of you who have to go. I do thank you for joining me. For those that you have some time to hang on, I've got some more good information to cover and question and answers. So just real quickly, in terms of positioning within our line, this is the new Hobo MX20L that I've been talking about today in this top row. And then just for comparison, the U20L, pretty much the same price and specs. The difference is you have to plug it into a base station or optional waterproof shuttle to offload the data. We also have Hobo water level loggers in metal housings, which provide a higher degree of accuracy, a greater depth range, and also a smaller diameter, which is important for some applications. So keep those in mind as well. We sell those in stainless and titanium configurations. And we also have another Bluetooth logger, which has a direct to read cable. So the logger actually stays above the water level, and that has the Bluetooth communications in it for easy data offload. So you don't have to pull this one up, and the water level sensor sits down in the water, and they're connected with a cable, and you can buy different cable lengths to accommodate the application. And we also have several remote water level monitoring applications. I just kind of summed them up here. We have wireless configurations or cellular enabled stations that can have water level sensors connected to them for getting the water level data remotely. So it saves the time of having to go out into the field to retrieve data. So we've got a lot of water level choices available for you now. So just some key points to summarize about the Hobo MX20L water level logger. It's got the speed and ease of wireless data download with the integrated Bluetooth. No need to remove the cap. You can remove the cap, by the way, to see the LED inside the logger. Sometimes that's helpful during troubleshooting. So it's there if you need it. And there's no need to take a laptop into the field. Proven reliability, and it's part of the MX family of loggers, which now has quite a few different parameters to choose from. Temperature, light, conductivity and salinity, dissolved oxygen, and pH are all available within this MX family, all with the same software platform and that Bluetooth communications, and all of this at a great price. So I went to Yeah, I said about 30 minutes, right? So now I have time for questions. So it looks like several of you are still with me. So I'll answer some of your questions now. So pause with me as I scroll through these. Some of you sent questions in advance, so I think I'm actually going to hit some of those first. There was one question that came up a few times, which is how close do you have to be to download the data? Well, you do have to pull up the logger, as I mentioned, because the Bluetooth won't go through water for any appreciable distance. But in the air, it'll go for about 100 feet is the range we specify for the Bluetooth offload. So you just have to be in the general area to offload the data. Let's see what else is in here. Pardon me while I scroll through. I covered a lot of these questions during the presentation that were sent in advance, so because I knew they were asked. So let's see. Oh, a question about the cold temperature battery life. The temperature does affect the battery life, but our specifications are over the the normal water level operating range of basically freezing up to I think it's up to 40 degrees C is kind of what we consider to be the normal operating range. So it may reduce the battery life slightly if you're at one end or the other, but for the most part, it should meet our spec at those over that full temperature range. So now let me look at some of I'm going to expand my window here and And there's a question here, can I use this primarily for temperature data? And yeah, you can use it just as a temperature logger if you want. You don't always have to record pressure, but yeah, you can use it for both. I usually recommend recording both parameters so you have them. Let's see. If you're in stages. Okay, here's a good question. I mentioned taking reference water level readings at the beginning and the end of a deployment. And the question is, can our software do the interpolation between those two reference readings? And that's a great idea, but it actually doesn't do that. You kind of be on your own to do that. You could do that with an Excel spreadsheet or whatever platform you're using. Yeah, our software doesn't do that. That's maybe in the future. We do that with some of our loggers, but not with water level. Water level tends to be, the pressure sensors tend to be more stable over time, as opposed to sensors like DO sensors, which can be affected by fouling, and those tend to need more of that compensation. I think in most cases you'll find the readings at the beginning and end will line up with each other. Yeah, there's a question here. Can you use a U-series logger as a barrel for this system? And yeah, absolutely. The software will, no, let me take that back. It won't accept the U-series data directly. What you have to do is you have to export that data as a CSV file. And I think you can just use the standard HoboWare CSV export format, and that can in turn be directly used by the Hobo Connect software. So there is an extra step there, but it's pretty easy to do. And somebody just wanted me to confirm that you really do need a water level and a barrel logger. Yeah, unless, for really deep wells, maybe where you've got, 100-foot change in water level, maybe that 6 inches doesn't really matter. But for most cases, you're going to want to have that separate logger for barrel. And again, you can use one barometric pressure logger with 20 or 100, however many loggers you have within that 10 mile radius of where the barometric pressure logger is. So you don't, it's not a 1-for-1. You can share that barrel logger. There's a question about the MX 2001 direct read logger. Is that one barometrically compensated? And yeah, that's one of the nice features about the MX 2001 direct read logger, is it has a barometric pressure sensor in the read head, so it directly calculates water level. So you don't have to use a data assistant to get water level with that. And that's why you can use an MX 2001 to get barometric pressure data to use with your MX 20L. Let's see. There was a question about the cost again, just as a reminder. I'll just hit on it real quick. The loggers are $399 US. If you're in another country, we have distributors. They try to keep pretty close to our pricing, but keep in mind that they have importing costs and there's exchange rate costs, so their prices are likely to be more expensive than ours, just to cover those additional costs. But it's definitely, if you're in an international location, I would recommend going to one of our distributors. They're all trained on these products. We're really fortunate to have a great set of distributors. Here's a question. If the Hobo ends up getting encased in ice, will it be toast? In most cases, it will survive being frozen in ice. Maybe 1 out of 10 cases, the sensor will get damaged. Obviously ice freezing on a sensor is tough on it, but as I mentioned, it's a ceramic sensor, so it's really durable. In most cases, it will withstand that being frozen. Okay. Oh, and the person that asked about the needing a barrel logger, they clarified that, and this is a good point of clarification, is they have a weather station. It's a non-hobo weather station in this case that's a couple miles away. So you can use the data from that weather station. You just have to take the data from that weather station, the barometric pressure data from that, put it into a CSV file, and we cover that in the Hobo Connect documentation, how to format that data. It's pretty straightforward. I've done it, and then that data can be directly used by the water level data assistant within Hobo Connect. Oh, another person pointed out 10 miles away and similar elevation. Yeah, you want to be within like 1,000 feet of elevation with your barometric pressure logger. So it doesn't have to be exactly the same elevation, because if there's a small offset, that gets compensated for in the reference water level measurement. But if there's too much of an elevation change, you're going to get different weather patterns, and yeah, you want to maybe have a closer water level or barometric pressure sensor. Let's see. Yeah. Actually, somebody called me out. The CSV formatting information, it's somebody's gone to it and looked it up in Hobo Connect documentation, and you are correct. It's not actually in there today. We are in the process of updating that the Hobo Connect manual as we speak, and next week it's going to be in the Hobo Connect manual. So come back, and if anybody's got questions in the meantime, you can reach out to us, and we'll tell you how to do that CSV formatting. But there is a little bit of lag before it is actually in the Hobo Connect manual. Here's a good question. Will Hobo Connect run on a Mac laptop for the data processing? And right now we do not have support for Hobo Connect on the Mac platform. It will run on iOS devices, it will run on Android devices and Windows devices, but not Macs this time. We might add that capability in the future. We like our Mac users as well. Let's see. I'm going to go back up to the top. I've been kind of looking at the questions as they come. So, here's an interesting question. Can you opt to store pressure data at a high rate, a burst rate, and temperature only once a burst? And no, it's kind of all or nothing sort of thing. It's the logging for temperature and pressure is at the same rate for this logger. So that's just how it works at this time. Good question though. Oh, and there's another question. Will there be a Bluetooth logger that has the accuracy of the metal U20s? And yeah, that's our plan. We don't have it just yet. There's so many things we want to do with our Hobo loggers, so we haven't gotten to that one yet. But yeah, make sure to stay on our mailing list, and we'll keep you updated when we get to that. It's going to be a little bit yet, just but that's on our roadmap as well. Let's see, what else do we have here? Well, somebody was asking if they can use their Hobo waterproof shuttle with these new loggers. No, the waterproof shuttle is just for our U-series loggers that have the optical communications. But really, you just bring your phone out, and I keep mine in a waterproof case to make sure it doesn't get damaged by any water out there. But yeah, the shuttle's not compatible. There's a question about the battery replacement cost. I think the price is slightly over $200, which sounds like a lot, but actually for the battery replacement, we have to redo the calibration, because the process of disassembling the logger kind of changes the calibration because it affects the sensor mounting. So we have to redo a full calibration. And as long as we're putting in a new battery, we put in a whole new circuit board as well. So it's basically like getting a new logger at that point. We redo the factory calibration. The only thing that basically that we're reusing is the housing itself. So yeah, it's just over $200 for the battery replacement. Record the same rate. Oh, here's a good question. Do the barrel logger and the water logger need to record at the same rate? And the answer on that is no. The water level data assistant will interpolate between the barometric pressure readings to line it up with the water level logger data to do the barometric compensation. So we account for that. If there is an offset in those readings, we account for that, and they can be at different rates. Let's see. I think I've covered most of the questions now. Thanks for to all those of you hung in. Looks like still many of you are still with me. That's great. Yep. Oh, there's a question here about combining files from multiple downloads. That's a good one, because we do have that capability in our HoboWare software. We don't actually have that ability to combine files within Hobo Connect, but you can, once we add the capability to upload the data to HoboLink, that will combine data from the same logger. So you can basically, once we have that capability, as we do with other MX loggers, it will consolidate that data for you. So that's one of the values of subscribing to that HoboLink service. And I think I've gotten through most of the questions. Oh, a question about, is there an indication on the logger when it wakes up by using the magnet? That's a good one. Yeah, if you, in most cases, when you wake up the logger with the magnet, you'll see it on your phone. It shows up and flashes. I don't know if you remember in my demo, it was flashing a little bit. That tells you you've connected. But if your phone isn't handy at that time, you can take off the end cap, and as soon as the logger wakes up for doing the Bluetooth communications, it'll wake it up. It'll flash that LED as well. So you can get that quick visual confirmation that way. And here's another question. When you download the data, does it delete it from the loggers so you don't get duplicate data on your next download? It's actually two steps. It doesn't automatically delete the data until it's the next deployment. So if you want to avoid duplicate data, basically what you'd do is you'd offload the data, you'd stop the logger, and do another launch. You just start it again, and that way you avoid having duplicate data. On the other hand, some users like to have that continuous data set. So even though they might be offloading it monthly, they want to get a copy of the data, data file that has a whole 3 months worth of data. You can do that as well, just by not stopping the logging after you offload the data. Another question about, can you bring this data into HoboWare Pro to process the data? No, HoboWare Pro does not support the MX loggers. You have to use Hobo Connect Hobo Connect app to process the MX data. So I think we've gone about 20 minutes for questions and answers. There's a couple here we may want to follow up with you individually, but I think I'm going to cut off the questions at this point. Yeah. A lot of good questions. It's great to see. Yeah, and I just do want to add, feel free to reach out to us at any time. Check our website. We do put a lot of information up there, such as our webinars and white papers, and we'll be adding, I'm sure, white papers that include these loggers as well. But reach out to our tech support or our sales teams at any time. They'll be happy to answer any questions you have. And we've got a great team. And at this point, I want to say a sincere thank you to all of you for attending. I really appreciate you joining me. I hope I answered most of your questions. And at this point, I wish you all a great day. Thank you.